Hey, how's it going, guys? It is Thursday today, which means it is my championship score predictions for week 3. It is also A-level results day. If any of you watching have received your A-level results, I hope you've had your best results that you can get. Anyway, enough of me being sentimental, let's get going. So now we have Huddersfield versus Fulham. Now I'm also going to be talking about the Carabao Cup as well as the match. So with Huddersfield, they lost to Lincoln City at the John Smith Stadium. At times Huddersfield looked decent, they were getting into some alright positions, but Lincoln overall had a really good performance. They were piling players in the defence, making sure Huddersfield didn't have a good shot away, and they really capitalised on Huddersfield's lack of pace in their passing. Lincoln at the time could have scored a second one. Huddersfield are going to be put a lot of pressure from that Carabao Cup game, and also the fact they've only picked up 1 point in this championship season so far. With Fulham, there's going to be a lot of expectation with their attacking line. Their squad is a very, very good squad and it should click eventually. They had a very convincing 2-0 victory against Blackburn. It was a great game overall. Tom Cairney scoring an absolute banger. I feel like this is going to be a closer game. Fulham away from home, I'm not too convinced of them yet. Remembering that they were away when they lost to Barnsley, it was a performance that they were running all over Fulham until Anthony Knockout got on. Fulham actually competed. I think he needs to start for Fulham against Huddersfield. In terms of a head-to-head record, Fulham have a much better record than Huddersfield. Last time they met was in the Premier League, where Huddersfield won 1-0 by a Timothy Fosu-Mensah own goal. I think as a prediction, I'm going to predict a 1-1 draw. I think both teams are going to cancel each other out and get a point each. So I'll say a 1-1 draw. So now we get to 10 3 o'clock games. The first one being Luton Town versus West Brom. Luton had a very good Carabao Cup victory against Ipswich, a very convincing performance, especially in the first half. With West Brom, they lost to Millwall. They obviously played Millwall last week. They drew that 1-1, but Millwall managed to get a 2-1 victory this time. With Luton playing with that diamond, they've got a lot of attack and they string a lot of passes together. I think they've just got to be a little bit careful against West Brom. West Brom like to be set very, very defensively. They themselves are not as strong defensively, so they're going to have to be very, very careful. With West Brom, I don't know about their attack. Charlie Austin got a debut goal against Millwall, a really, really simple goal in the end. He headed it in from literally a centimetre from the goal, but he is someone that makes sure that the ball goes through the net. He could be a very important player for West Brom this year. Both Luton and West Brom like possession football. In fact, it's a stat, Luton have never beaten West Brom. I think that's going to change. I think Luton are going to get a surprise 2-1 home victory. I think Luton are just about going to have enough desire and hunger to win the game. So I'm going to say 2-1 Luton. So now we have two teams that have had pretty strong starts. We've got Millwall against Sheffield Wednesday. Millwall started with a win and a draw. With Sheffield Wednesday, they've got 2 wins out of 2 with a 100% record. Millwall had a really good victory against West Brom, especially away from home. With Sheffield Wednesday, they were supposed to have a match against Bury, but that was postponed following financial problems with Bury. I honestly hope Bury gets fixed. I'm really sad of what I'm hearing from Bury and Bolton actually as well. They've got a really tough season ahead of them and I wish both the best of luck. With Millwall, they've used their strength for set pieces very, very well. They look really dangerous with their set pieces. With Sheffield Wednesday, they've looked really, really clinical so far. Even though Sheffield Wednesday have got an unbeaten record so far, the Den is known to be a very intimidating place for teams to go to. I think Sheffield Wednesday's 100% record's going to end, but I don't think they're going to be beaten. I think it's going to be a 2-2 draw. I'm expecting a very entertaining game at the Den, so I'll say 2-2. So now we have Nottingham Forest against Birmingham City. Nottingham Forest dispatched Fleetwood by 1-0. It wasn't the best performance by Nottingham Forest, but they did just about enough, which is encouraging. With Birmingham, they lost their Carabao Cup game last week against Portsmouth. Pretty poor performance, but they backed it up with a semi-decent performance against Bristol City. I think this is going to be a very closely contested game. Nottingham Forest have not looked all that great at the moment. I think they're still waiting for all their signings to click. In terms of Muric, their goalkeeper, I'm still yet convinced of whether he will be a good keeper. He has made some key saves, but a bit like Kiko Casilla for Leeds, I question some of his decision making. With Birmingham, I know they got a 1-0 victory away from home, but they only had 1 shot on goal. And I'm a bit concerned that maybe they might go for the same approach and be very, very quiet and let Nottingham Forest dominate. Because when Nottingham Forest will dominate, they will punish you for it. Last year, this was a 2-2 draw and overall a very, very entertaining game in the end. I think there's not going to be as many goals in this game. I just got a feeling that Nottingham Forest are going to walk away with their first win with a 1-0 home victory. I can just see Nottingham Forest doing just about enough and causing Birmingham enough problems to lose the game. So I'll say 1-0. A very, very interesting game is Barnsley versus Charlton. Obviously two teams that have been promoted, and for both of these teams, these are key games to try and get points from. I think Barnsley are more in need of them in particular. They've had a pretty slow start. They've got a good win against Fulham, but they had a pretty poor performance against Sheffield Wednesday in the end. They did create a little bit of pressure onto Sheffield Wednesday, but overall they were completely swept away. I don't think they're going to be swept away against Charlton though. Even though Charlton are the only other team with 100% star, I think they're going to really struggle in this game. Oakwell looks to be a really intimidating place. Barnsley have made it intimidating. They've already beaten one of the league favourites 1-0, and if Barnsley can play at that level, then I don't know how Charlton will cope. I think Barnsley will also be a little bit more key with the fact they lost their Carabao Cup game against Carlisle at Oakwell, which was a really, really poor performance from them overall. They did create something, but the way they capitulated was really concerning in my opinion. Charlton also lost their Carabao Cup game, although they took it to the end in penalties. In a head-to-head, last time they played, obviously they were in League One. Barnsley got a 2-1 victory, and I think they're going to match that. I think Barnsley will win 2-1, meaning Charlton's unbeaten run is going to end. So I'm going to say 2-1 Barnsley for this game. So now we have Blackburn versus Middlesbrough. Blackburn need to bounce back with their 2 losses on the bounce. They managed to do that with a 3-2 home victory against Oldham in the Carabao Cup. They looked to be that they were going eliminated. They were unlucky not to be awarded with a goal, and Radley Dack missed an absolute sitter in the second half. But in the end, they managed to win by 3-2. They're going to face a much tougher opponent in Middlesbrough, although they did lose their Carabao Cup game as well against Crewe. They did well to get back into the game, but they lost on penalties in the end. With this exact fixture last year, Middlesbrough managed to win by 1-0, though it was probably aided with the fact that Derek Williams managed to get a red card. I think Blackburn need to win this game. At Ewood Park against Charlton, they weren't all that great, but I think with Middlesbrough, they're going to want to try and get used to Jonathan Woodgate's system and to create more chances, but I'm still not convinced with them if they can do both attack and both defend. They need to try and think of a system where they can do both as good. I think Blackburn may get a very narrow 1-0 victory. I don't think there'll be many goals in that game at all. So I'm going to predict Blackburn are going to get their first points to the board with a 1-0 home victory against Middlesbrough. So now we have Brentford versus Hull, and oh my word, this game last year was crazy to say the least. Brentford managed to win by 5-1 with a fantastic performance by side Ben Rama. Both sides have had contrasting results in the Carabao Cup. Brentford lost after drawing against Cambridge United on penalties, and then Hull managed to win a very comfortable 3-0 away victory against Tranmere. Brentford are always going to want to have a lot of possession and create a load of chances in the game. Hull would like to continue with their tactic in attacking down the wings with the likes of Rosicky piling forward, and Hull have looked to be very, very clinical so far, whereas with Brentford, you saw against Birmingham in their first game, they weren't really clinical at all. I think we're going to see a very entertaining game. Both teams like to play a lot of passes and a lot of chances. I think Brentford are going to win by 3-1. I think Brentford might get a pretty comfortable victory. I just have a sneaky feeling that Brentford are going to want to bounce back from their disappointment in the Carabao Cup, and with Hull away from home, I'm not convinced with them yet, so I'll say 3-1 Brentford. So now we've got Bristol City and QPR, and funnily enough, those two teams literally played a couple of days ago in the Carabao Cup, albeit it was at Loftus Road. This time it's going to be at Ashton Gate. It was a very entertaining 3-3 draw, in fact probably the tie of the Carabao Cup along with Salford and Leeds maybe, but it was a fantastic performance by both teams, I thought, and a very entertaining game overall, and I hope we see the same on Saturday. With Bristol City, they've had a more of a disappointing start in the Championship. They've only picked up 1 point so far. With Queen's Park Rangers, they've done really, really well. They've picked up a win and a draw. With Bristol City, I'm still not convinced with Benik Afobe up front. They've still got the options of Jeju, and they've also got Swadiggs as their options as well, so Bristol City have got a really talented and in-depth squad. It's just whether that they are going to click in time to make a real statement for promotion. With Queen's Park Rangers, they've been one of the surprise teams so far. They've played really well. I think this is going to be a very close game again, but I think Bristol City are going to edge it by 2-1. I have a feeling that Bristol City are going to get their act together at Ashton Gate. They'll take it very seriously, obviously wanting revenge for Queen's Park Rangers by knocking them out of the cup as well. And I think they'll do that with a victory, so I'll say 2-1 Bristol City. A very interesting game against two teams I'm still yet to be convinced by is Stoke against Derby. With Stoke, they had an okay performance against Charlton, even though they lost the game. They created chances more importantly, and they did cause Charlton a few problems, but with Charlton, they scored 3 goals with their 5 shots they had. Stoke had a lot more, they had over 10 shots. It has got potential, the philosophy is there. They've just got to score all the chances that they can have. Jack Butland had a bit of a howler in that game. I have a feeling he'll pick himself up from it. Stoke had a pretty good performance against Wigan. They didn't really allow Wigan to get into the game. Derby, in the end, managed to get Scunthorpe. It looked to me that they would go 0-0 to penalties, but in the end, Lee Buchman, who is actually my age, got the goal. I think he's even younger than me, actually. This will be a really close game. Philip Koku's going to want his side to perform even better. Away from home, they had a very good first half against Huddersfield. With Stoke, I'm still yet to see their style in full effect in terms of blowing teams away. I think both are going to cancel each other's out. I think it's going to be a 1-1 draw. I could see both of these teams drawing, and with Stoke continuing their very slow start to the season. So I'll say a 1-1 draw. So now we have Swansea versus Preston, both teams that have gone out with the Carabao Cup with a win. Swansea had a very good comeback against Northampton. They looked like they could be heading out for a shock exit, but Andre Ayew contributed to the goals, and Swansea had a terrific comeback, beating Northampton in the end pretty comfortably. With Preston, they had a fantastic away victory, a 4-0 win against Bradford. Andre Green, I thought, looked excellent in that game. I think this game's going to be a pretty close game. Both teams have got a win off their hands. Last time they played each other, Swansea narrowly beat Preston by 1-0, which was near the start of the season. And it was a game where Preston got a few chances, but overall just weren't clinical enough, and Swansea in the end punished them for it. I think this game is going to be even closer, judging by what both of their squads have. I think Swansea are going to win by 2-1. I could see this being a very close game. I'll say 2-1 Swansea. And obviously the final 3 o'clock game is Wigan versus Leeds. And oh my word, when I think of Wigan versus Leeds, I think back to last year. Wigan got that very shocked victory against Leeds, obviously at Ellen Road, not at DW Stadium, but it was still the day when Leeds crumbled in the end and Wigan managed to survive from the relegation. I think Leeds are going to be even more determined to get revenge of Wigan after that. Wigan had lost against Stoke in the Carabao Cup. It was a pretty poor performance from them overall. They didn't really offer too much to Stoke, and I think Stoke in the end were pretty comfortable and were cruising through the 90 minutes. With Leeds, they showed their style against Salford, although they were exposed a couple of times to the counter-attack and a few set-piece plays, although Leeds overall dealt with it very professionally. Eddie Nketiah got his first goal, and he got it on his debut as well. I think Eddie Nketiah could be a very important player for them. I do like Patrick Bamford, but I think Nketiah would need to start over Bamford. I would like to see him how he does starting the game. Leeds are going to have majority of the possession for sure. They're going to want to hog the ball, and they're going to want to create a lot of chances. With Wigan, they're going to be very compact, and they're going to try and attack using their set piece plays. I think Leeds will edge a victory. I think it's going to be a 3-1 away victory to Leeds. I just have a feeling Leeds are going to continue their momentum. They were terrific against Salford, and with Nottingham Forest, even though they didn't win the game, they were unlucky. Bamford did hit the bar after all, so I think Leeds' philosophy is still recognisable, it's still there, and they can still do it. They've just got to be a little bit careful with their set pieces, so I'll say a 3-1 away victory to Leeds. And the final match to talk over this weekend is the Sunday afternoon kickoff of Reading versus Cardiff. Cardiff didn't actually play a Carabao Cup game yet because of their ranking. They'll play Luton Town in the next round. With Reading, they played against Wickham and George Puskis managed to get the goal. It was a very, very nice goal from him. However, they did lose on penalties in the end. I think with Reading, I think they're going to make the Mendacy Stadium very intimidating. I think with their signings, there were glimpses in the Wickham game where they'd click and they could look really, really dangerous. However, there are times where there's just a bit of a disconnect and then suddenly players are out of position and then they panic. And you really cannot do that against Cardiff. I think with Reading, they actually may have a lot of the ball. Cardiff are riding their luck with not getting a lot of the ball, but being very compact and playing on a counter-attack. I think both teams are going to really want to attack each other using their set pieces and long balls around the field. The very last meeting against them was on the final day when it was a 0-0 draw. I really hope this doesn't end up the same. However, I think Reading are going to have a very shock 1-0 home victory. I just have a feeling with Reading, they've got a lot more firepower, and I think when Cardiff do tend to concede, they do struggle to get back into it. So I'll say a 1-0 home victory to Reading, which will give them their first points of the season. So there you have it. These are my score predictions on the screen. Do you agree with me or do you disagree with me? Let me know in the comments down below. Also, comment your score predictions in the comments down below. I'll be very interested to see how different our predictions are. So that will wrap it up for today. There's my Twitter. If you want to follow it, please do. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. You guys are legendary if you saw the end of the video. And finally, take care.